Hi, I'm Ryan Stradal, author of Kitchens of the Great Midwest. I grew up in Minnesota, was born and raised there, attended college in Illinois, and I have relatives in Wisconsin, Iowa, and North Dakota, and much of the book is inspired by the people and the culture of this region. For example, 5 of the 8 recipes in the book are inspired by recipes from this one, First Lutheran Church Women, the cookbook out of the First Lutheran Church of Hunter, North Dakota. This is the 1984 edition. This was the Lutheran church of my great-grandmother, grandmother, and my great-aunts, and many of their recipes are in this book. The recipes from this book were among those that sustained me through long winters in the 70s and 80s in Minnesota. There was a whole section just on bars and cookies. Now, I find that when I talk about Midwestern desserts outside of the Midwest, I often am forced to explain what bars are, but here they're a chapter heading. That's not even my favorite thing about this book. That's probably the salads section, because even though I don't discuss this in the book too much, there's one character who makes such a salad in the Golden Bantam chapter. But to me, the Midwestern salad may or may not contain vegetables at all. It's just an admixture of, could be jello or meat, jello and meat, just so long as it's served cold. Heat it up a little, you call it a hot dish. Everything else is a salad. Although food is the connective tissue of Kitchens of the Great Midwest, I don't consider this a food novel. I think it's a family novel. It's a mother-daughter novel, and my own family, and my mom in particular, was extremely influential in the direction of this narrative and its settings and its characters. Growing up in Hastings, Minnesota, we couldn't sustain a bookstore for very long. I mean, there were bookstores, but they came and went. The constant was the library, and it's a beautiful library. I went there quite a bit growing up. The library was always there, and I was always at the library. I saw my first literary reading at the library. It was a nonfiction writer who was reading about his book on the voyagers of northern Minnesota, the Lake Superior area, the French explorers from the 16 and 1700s. It wasn't something I was interested in at all, but it didn't matter. Here was a real live author reading from a book that he wrote. And I mean, to me, like, books came from another planet. I didn't know anyone who wrote them. I loved them, but they were like alien objects to me. And here was evidence that they came from people. They came from a person you could meet. The highlight of my book tour is going to be in October, when I return to Hastings and I read at the library. I don't think there's going to be anything like it. I think it's going to be a pretty emotional experience. Before I roll into the Hastings Library, however, I hope to see you on July 15th from 1 to 2 p.m. For an online chat where I'll be discussing Kitchens of the Great Midwest and answer any questions you have, and hopefully talk a little bit about, bars and salad recipes if you have them. And until then, thank you so much for reading, and thank you for your support, and I hope to see you then.